everybody, it's Sarah, and before we get into today's video, I just very quickly want to get the usual things out of the way. I am sorry if you can hear anything in the background. There's still construction going on outside. I do not know how long this will still take, and I'm kind of getting annoyed because it wakes me up in the morning and it just sucks really bad. And then the second thing that I wanted to say is that I'm sorry that I didn't upload on Sunday. I kind of fucked up with my time management and didn't find the time to film or edit. So yeah, that was the reason for that. But now I'm back and now I can hopefully manage my time better. But as for today's video, today I'm back with another tag, and that is the Barkin Bout books tag that was created by Eric from Break Even Books, who was also the one who tagged me. And I will of course leave the links to the original video as well as his channel link down below, so definitely go and check those out. And this book is basically all about human's best friend, the dog, and all the questions are very doggy-centered questions. I have personally actually never owned a dog, or any pet for that matter. I would love to own a cat, but in my flat we're not allowed to have any pets, even though there are some people here that have dogs. But yeah, I don't think I will ever own a dog actually, unless I get like a country house ever in the future, because for me personally, especially big dogs, which would be the only type of dog that I would like own, like big. Border Collie to German Shepherd, like that size range. And I just find like big dogs in flats and in the city, they're like kind of poor because they have nowhere to go and they can't run. And so as long as I live in a city, I probably would never own a dog personally, even though I do like them. But I like cats more, so if I had to choose which one to own, I would choose a cat. But anyway, let's get into the video and into the questions. Since I first watched the original video, I have not looked at the questions, so these answers are all gonna be spontaneous and I'm looking forward to it. So let's get into it. The first question is, I've got a bone to pick with you. Name a book that was good until it wasn't. So a book that I enjoyed at the beginning, but then ended up being a disappointment for me. And there's actually one book that popped into my mind right away that was quite a recent read, and I can actually see it right here behind me. So let me see if I can actually just grab it. Yay, it worked. But the book is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And I enjoyed the first 2/3 of the book. I found the atmosphere quite nice. It's like a kind of haunted house thriller, mystery, gothic horror novel set in 50s Mexico. But the last third, the conclusion of the book, was just, in my opinion, badly done. There was way too much sexual assault, and like the solution, the like, what's it called? Like when everything unravels, the solution. I'm just gonna call it the solution. Like the finale just didn't make any sense, came out of nowhere, like it didn't come to a satisfying conclusion for me. And so yeah, sadly I only gave this 3 stars, although it would have been a 2-star book to be honest. But the main character is an anthropologist and I study anthropology, so that's why I gave it 3 stars. Second book is Welcome Home. Name a book that gives you the warm feelings of home. And for that, I always go with a very generic answer, at least for me. But those books I can also see right here, although I will have to grab book 2 because I lent book 1 to my little sister who is 10, so she's the right age to start reading these books. And yeah, it's the Inkheart trilogy, or more specifically the first book. The first sentence of the Inkheart trilogy, which is, "It was raining that night, a fine whispering rain." I think that's the sentence in English. Just like, there's no sentence that gives me more warm and fuzzy feelings than that sentence. And this is the series, I have also talked about it a lot on my channel already, that made me fall in love with reading, that made me, or that gave me the ability to really fully fall into a story. And for that, I will just always appreciate this series, and for that, this series will always feel like coming home. It has some of my favorite characters of all time. it has some of my favorite villains of all time, even though they're very stereotypical, but it kind of fits in with like the concept of the book, which of course is that you have people who can read characters out of books, and then there's some stuff that goes wrong with that. But yeah, I can definitely recommend the In-Card trilogy, and I don't know if I already mentioned by whom it is. It's by Cornelia Funke. But yeah, go and read it. Also, the covers of these books, like the German books, are beautiful. But I also really love these like new English covers, and I really want them, but there's like literally no need for me to get them because I would never read this series in English because it was originally written in German, so why should I read a translation of the series? But yeah, so series that makes me feel like home. Prompt number 3, Roughing It, a book or series with a travel element in it. And honestly, I do not know which one. I mean, I read fantasy, so probably at least half the books on my shelves have travel elements in them, but let's see. Let's go with this one because I haven't talked about it in a while on my channel, I think. And that is the Invisible Library series by Genevieve Cogman. The reason why this has a travel element in it, by the way, it's really loud right now. The reason why this has a travel element in it is because there's like hundreds of alternate universes in this world of our world, and the main character is a librarian spy, which means she works for this like entity, the Invisible Library, and she travels to these different alternate universes like to get books, to steal books, and to bring them back to the Invisible Library. And so there's like travel throughout the worlds, travel throughout times, because all the different alternate universes like have different times, are at different points in our history, travel throughout different like magical systems, because all the worlds have different amounts of magic. And I really love this series. It's a total of 6 books so far. The 7th book is going to come out in December, and I'm really excited already. So definitely go and check this out if you haven't yet. Marking your territory. Name a book or series that you will always stand by. And I actually have to get that book from over there because all of my favorite books are over there. So like, wait a second. That book is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I could have probably also chosen The Stormlight Archived. I could have also chosen the Black Jewel series. But to be honest, I am not a fan, especially like in today's climate, I would say, of saying I will always stand by an author who is like still alive, because there's always the chance that they will do something problematic that I personally don't agree with, and that will me personally make me say that I don't want to support them anymore and I don't want to support their series anymore, even if their series still mean a lot to me, and where I won't just like stand behind those series anymore no matter what. However, Oscar Wilde has been dead for quite some time, and The Picture of Dorian Gray is my favorite book of all time, so that's definitely not a danger with this one. And I absolutely love The Picture of Dorian Gray. I recently read like a lot of short stories by Oscar Wilde again, and he was just a genius with words. And honestly, even if you do not usually read classics, I still think that this is quite an easy book to read it. Like, I think I read it for the first time when I was 15, and English is my first language, so really you shouldn't have any problem in terms of this being a classic, and you're not usually reading classics. So yeah, I can highly recommend it. Everyone should go read this book. If there's one book that I could recommend everyone to read it, it would be The Picture of Dorian Gray. Digging Holes, a book that had some hidden secrets or that had a big plot twist uncovered. And there's only really one author I can go with for that prompt, really. Like, to be honest, who else would that author be but Brandon Sanderson? But let me just quickly grab the series off of my shelves that I want to talk about more specifically. The series I want to talk about is the Mistborn series, of course, by Brandon Sanderson. This is actually the 3rd book, The Hero of Ages, because book number 1 is still like at home with a friend of mine who has had it for like 5 years, I think now probably. And book number 2 is somewhere over there because I was preparing for another video that I wanted to film. But anyway, Mistborn just has so many plots from the very first book on to the last book. It's just one big plot twist, and the hints are all there, but you still kind of don't see them until, like, in hindsight you're like, why? What the fuck? Why didn't I see this coming? And Brandon Sanderson in general is just really, really great when it comes to uncovering plot twists. Like Skyward as well, his YA like space opera is also great with plot twists. The Stormlight Archive has also some plot twists. So like, just read Brandon Sanderson if you want great fantasy plot twists. Next prompt, Stand By Me. Name a book or series that has very loyal friendships. And for that, I again have to go over there because like there's only one series that I can put as an answer for this question. That series is The Black Jewels by Anne Bishop. And I feel like I have not talked about this series in quite some time on my channel. But Anne Bishop in general, just the basis of all her books are very strong relationships, very strong like friendships between all of the characters. And she also is so great when it comes to very strong female friendships. And I just love that so much because we don't see that very often in fantasy, because a lot of times in fantasy, let's be honest, there aren't enough female characters to really like guarantee strong female friendships. And so I just absolutely love her books for that. Those are the reasons why I still love the books. I can kind of now, since the last reread, see some other problems that I now have with the series, which is just like so important to me, was so important to me when I was growing up. But the friendships, the relationships, they still hold up and they're still so strong and they still mean so much to me that like I just had to go with this book. Like, I know I said I'd spontaneously react to these questions, and I know it seems like with most questions I instantly had an answer, but like with most of these questions, just I gotta be honest, there's just one possible answer for me, and that possible answer always just pops into my mind right away. Tug of War, a book you have mixed feelings about, and it's gonna be a quick answer again because once again there's been a book on my mind recently that I have thought about a lot and that I haven't changed my opinion on, but that I've like expanded my opinions on, let's put it like that. And that book, I mean the second book at least, is over here because again the first book is somewhere over there because I was preparing for a different video. But that series is the Poppy War series by R.F. Kuang. I have talked about this series a lot on my channel. I have talked about my problems with this series a lot on my channel, and all these problems still stand. I do not think this is a particularly well-written story. I have a lot of problems with the way the story is told. I have a lot of problems with some framings within the story of certain actions of certain characters themselves, and so on. More so in the first book than in the second book. The second book I just didn't particularly like story-wise. I just find the characters like not well developed isn't the right word, but I find the characters kind of exasperating, I guess. And I find the story pretty basic in a lot of ways. However, something that I have learned to appreciate this series for, the more I think about the series, is that I think ultimately this series is going to be incredibly important to the formation of like modern fantasy and where modern fantasy develops from now on. Because this series is one of the series that most directly like deals with decolonization, and I would call it very much a decolonial fantasy story, and it kind of reframes a lot of things that we have come to look as like given in fantasy, which like actually are results of very colonial viewpoints that, you know, still existed during Tolkien's time, when he didn't create the genre of fantasy, but he made it what it is today in a certain way. And so I think The Poppy War is an incredibly important series to kind of make us think about those things and kind of, like, again, decolonialize fantasy. And I think it's very on the nose with those things, so I'm still not perfectly happy with the execution of how this novel does those things, but I can still appreciate it, and I can still appreciate what it does, what it tries to do, and what I think for a lot of people it did work, like, in doing. I think it did work in breaking up some of those structures that we have in fantasy. Of course, we haven't seen the results yet all that much, but I think in the long run, this series will be remembered as one of the first series who did that, and so I can appreciate it for that, even though I personally do not enjoy and do not like the series, and I am excited for the last book, which comes out this month. So yeah, that's why I have a lot of mixed feelings about this series, because on the one hand I really hate the first book, but on the other hand I still kind of appreciate it. So yeah, take of that or make of that what you will. Last question is Treats, a book that you're super excited about and you will reward yourself by reading it. And I don't know about rewarding myself with reading it, because no matter what happens I will still read this book, but a book I'm super excited for, of course, is Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, book 4 in the Stormlight Archive series, which from today, the publishing date is in 1 week, and I am so excited. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. And then the last thing to do, of course, is to tag people, and as always, I will just tag some people on Twitter. But with that said, I hope I'll see you soon. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media are in the description box down below, so go and check those out. All the links to my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, in which we read one adult high fantasy book written by a woman per month, will also be linked down below, so go and check those out as well. And with that said, I hope I'll see you soon, and bye!